All right, let's go ahead and get this one started early, man. Let's go ahead and get this one started early. Appreciate you for stopping by. If you're in the comments, make sure to let me know. You already know the drill, man. All right, let's get this thing started, man. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Life of a Champ podcast. For today's episode 168, we're going to be discussing your reaction. Your reaction being everything. Now, this is going to be a podcast that I think I'm gonna hit the home what I'm gonna mention on today's episode. So, if you guys have any comments or questions regarding today's episode topic, make sure to leave in the comments. A few things I want to say before I go to get it started. Make sure to go and follow me on TikTok, Twitch, as well as on Rumble, just at Life of a Champ podcast and everything. And make sure you go ahead and leave a like on my YouTube Shorts as well as my YouTube clips. I'll be making clips here soon. So if there's a specific podcast that you want to see clips for, definitely let me know for sure. But getting into it, today's topic, like I said, your reaction is everything. So obviously, you could imagine that everything that I will be discussing today will lead back to the same thing, right? So, like I said, your reaction is everything. What I mean by that is this: first, in order to have a reaction, you need something like an action or like something needs to happen, right? A stimulus, an input needs to be had, right? And when the stimulus or input is had, then you can have a reaction towards that. And what I will say is this is what I personally observed within reactions, whether this is your own personal reactions and how you react to certain aspects of your life, or if this is maybe you observing somebody else react to a certain thing, right? Maybe a certain input that you guys are both reacting to. But nonetheless, reactions are all telling, right? Reactions are all telling. You can tell a lot about a person by how they react on a certain situation. You can kind of begin to conceptualize, rightfully so, with assuming, of course, the ways in which they kind of have takes during certain things, or let's just say their opinion on a certain thing. They respond a certain way, and maybe you can kind of tell. Like I said, completely assuming, based off of their reaction, this is how they would respond. This is the ideology that they have, or this is what pops into their mind, or this is how they react. But nonetheless, your reaction is everything. So with that being said, there's two things you need to take away from this. One, you can observe people slightly differently than you kind of already was. So let's just say you're a person who sees people, of course, like everybody else, right? You could begin to analyze their reaction to certain things and to see if this person is a person maybe even worth keeping around, or maybe this is a person worth getting rid of. You can tell that based off of the reactions on certain things. If it's not exactly going to be conducive to the life you want to live, then you must remove that person. But nonetheless, I think it's very interesting because, like I said, it's all telling. It's gonna tell the true motives behind a person and the ways in which they function, the morals that they have, the values that they have, and obviously the values that they actually stand on. Right? You're gonna be able to see all those things. But with that being said, the second part of that is everybody's gonna be able to see that on you. Your reaction is going to literally be everything. People are going to see it through your facial expressions. They're gonna see it through your actions. They're gonna see it through the way in which you speak. Um, but yeah, your reaction is essentially everything. And with that being said, your reaction is also going to be the way that you respond to adversity and challenge, which I think is going to be one of the biggest things that you come across within this life is you're going to have adversity and challenge. And like I said, that is going to give you the perfect opportunity to either prove to yourself that you're the person that you say you are, or it's going to be the perfect opportunity for you to be proven wrong, right? But like I said, maybe you're observing somebody within your life right now, right? And you want to see the way that they react. Or maybe they don't react the same way that you react or that you would react to a certain situation. So um, maybe life hands them a little bit of adversity, give them a little bit of taste of what they say that they want, right? And they kind of don't like that, and that they're not really embracing the challenge. They're not really embracing the adversity. They're 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 um they're letting it they're letting it get into their head a little bit too much, right? Like I said, that your reaction is everything. Your reaction is everything. You're going to see a person being tested in certain ways in which are going to make them uncomfortable, and the way that they respond is going to be all telling about their character for the most part. So, like I said, your reaction is everything, and more importantly, there's going to be certain situations that you come across within this life that either you're going to need to reevaluate the way that you respond, or maybe you're going to need to reevaluate the way that you've seen somebody else respond to it. But nonetheless, your reaction and your response is basically you're given it's your expressed ability of what evidence was given. So whether this is an input or whether this is, like I said, a circumstance, a certain situation that comes up within your life, um, that's going to be, like I said, that's going to pretty much be, man, what am I trying to say? That's pretty much where you're going to be able to get your reactions from. So like I said, you can see certain things and adjust for certain things as well. But one thing I want to mention with this as well, this is something that I personally see time and time again, or rather I don't see time and time again. Um, with you needing to be in a position where your reaction is everything, and you observe that your reaction is everything, and you observe that other people's reactions are everything, right? One thing that you must do, and this is something that you'll eventually come to the conclusion of if you go far enough within your self development journey, this is going to be where you start to be a little bit critical, right? You must be critically and constantly evaluating your reaction to see if it's something that is, like I said, working within your favor or whether it's not. Let's just say, for example, let's just say there's something that is very, very comfortable, something that you enjoy very, very much, right? Maybe this thing, maybe you're abusing this thing. Let's just say you're doing too much with whatever it is, right? You begin to abuse it. You must evaluate, like I said, you must become critical of yourself, critical of the things that you like doing, even like I said, even the things that you like doing. And like I said, you must constantly evaluate whether this is going to be something that needs to be a part of your future or whether it doesn't, right? And unfortunately, a lot of those things that are make us feel really, 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 really good, some of those things are not worth having. Unfortunately, right? When you look at the grand scheme of life, even though it is an enjoyable task, it still must be critically analyzed and evaluated. And like I said, maybe you get to the point where it is something that you like to do. It is something that you maybe have attached your identity to for years, right? But it's the one thing that you know you need to get rid of, right? That I feel like that's, I'm speaking from my own personal point of view, but this is something that I see a lot of people, or I see it applying to a lot of people's lives. And you must eventually come to the point where you can critically analyze yourself and your life and and your reactions and your actions that you take. Um, and if you refuse to do this, then you're going to, if you refuse to go ahead and be critical of the ways in which you are, I feel like that's going to limit the natural processes of life, which is going to be evolution. If you're a person that is not constantly being critical and evaluating your reactions to certain things within your life, I do believe life is going to test you. Life is going to test you for damn sure. And with that being said, it's going to constantly make you want to evolve the ways in which you think and your reaction towards certain things. That's the I feel like that's like one of the great parts of life is going to constantly it's going to constantly test you. It's going to constantly test you. And like I said, maybe at one point in time within your life it makes sense to do a certain thing or be a certain way, yeah, or act a certain way, right? Maybe it makes sense. But let's just say the results that you've given yourself right now, maybe that's not going to get you to the places that you want to go. Your reactions that you have right now towards certain things within your life that you enjoy doing, maybe eventually you'll get to the point where you realize, with enough careful and critical analysis of your own life, that this no longer suits you, and that is completely fine. Like I said, that is going to be that reaction being everything, right? Is even if it's what created your identity, the entire last year, right? Even if it's something that's created your entire identity last year, if it doesn't make sense right now, then it doesn't make sense right now, right? And your reaction towards that is everything. Your reaction towards the input itself, the action itself, your reaction towards, like I said, being very, very critical and analyzing whether it's going to work within your life or whether it's not. Like I said, and I've said this time and time again before on this podcast, right? Right? Your reaction is all telling. It's all telling. So maybe there's something in your life right now that needs to be reanalyzed. Maybe it's something that's bothering you. Maybe you put that within the back of your mind. Um, but maybe it's something that you need to go ahead and adjust, right? It just doesn't add up right now. Maybe it made sense once upon a time. Maybe it did benefit you once upon a time, but what if it's not benefiting you right now? What must you do? What is your only response? What is the correct way to react? What is the reaction that you need to have within this, right? And from that, like I said, maybe your reaction's positive, maybe your reaction's negative. right? And one thing I want to mention with that as well is if your reaction is negative, if it is indeed negative, which you see time and time again within a lot of people's lives and their circumstances, when their reaction is negative towards a certain thing, you can kind of see within observing this person the damage that it has done to that person, right? And they and it's and here's the thing, it's the damage that they've let it it's the damage that they've let be upon that person, which is interesting. And like I said, of course, this is not going to apply to every single situation, but if a reaction is all telling, especially if it's negative, that means there's something that still needs to be solved. That's what I will say. So if a reaction's all telling, you happen to have a negative reaction outside of this, right? Towards this input, right? Towards whatever, right? This must be constantly evaluated. Like I said, reevaluated. Maybe it makes sense one day or right now. Maybe it makes sense right now to be pissed off about a certain thing, right? But eventually you're going to get to the point where that no longer makes any sense, right? Your reaction being everything, that no longer suits the person that you want to be and the goals that you want to go ahead and pursue. So therefore you must transcend it, right? And I feel like that's another thing that I don't see enough people doing is transcending the negative, right? Transcending the negative is one of the best things, is one of the most critical things you possibly can do within this life. Because if you refuse to, I'm sure everyone here knows a person that has carried something and they have attached it to their identity for the longest amount of time, and it's something that is negative for whatever reason, right? It's like I said, it's a very interesting existence to have something be associated with your identity that's particularly negative, right? And like I said, your reaction towards that is going to be all telling. But I do believe this, and like I said, if for a person that has been in situations um, that I could have easily been very very spiteful or negative towards, I realize the end result, and like I said, whether you believe it or not right now, the end result is you looking at it from a positive point of view. I know I'm kind of getting off on a little tangent, but essentially the conclusion that you want to come to eventually is that it's a positive thing. Whether, like I said, whether it's unconsciously molding you into the person that you must become, you must be willing, and you must be willing to accept that for what it is, right? Because I feel like I said, a lot of people, they're really unaccepting of these certain things, and you can, like I said, you can kind of see it in the ways in which they react to certain things. And yeah, like I said, it's just all telling, man. It's all telling. Give me a second. I'm going to go ahead and read some of these comments. If you have any questions or comments regarding today's episode or today's topic, make sure and let me know for sure. I'm glad I came across this podcast when I was younger. I had a lot of anger issues. Now, whenever I exactly. Good job, KJ. Good job, man. Anthony, appreciate for stopping by. Self-evaluation and willingness to modify your reactions. Yeah, you're exactly right. That's exactly what today's episode's on. Because like I said, your reactions, all the reactions that you've had up into your life have not all been right. We can all admit this, right? And we can also admit that we must constantly modify our reactions towards certain things in order to get ahead in this life. Because like I said, if you look at the people who are left behind, the people who have achieved not as much as what you would like to go ahead and achieve within this life, they've carried on these negative things. Like I said, these negative identities, they carry these things on for whatever reason, right? But like I said, you must transcend it. You must transcend it eventually to a positive thing. Because realistically, there's really no use to give your energy to a negative thing. And that's truly not applying your energy the best that it possibly can be applied to. And like I said, if you can agree with that, then you must understand that regardless of the way that you react today towards a certain thing, whether it's negative or positive, eventually it's going to need to end in positive anyways. Give me 1 second. And one thing I want to mention as well, like I said, this is going to be another set. This is going to be another circumstance in which you can begin to evaluate the way in which people work, right? Most people speak out of their reactions. Think about that for a second. Most people speak out of the reactions of life, and you can tell a lot about a person's character just by having a conversation, right? You can tell their reaction towards certain things just by having a conversation with somebody, and maybe it's not even particularly towards a certain situation, but you can, like I said, you can rightfully make an assumption of this person and the ways in which they think. Like I said, I'm not saying that's the most noble thing to do, but I'm saying you'd be able to do that because like I said, your reactions are everything. They're all telling. And like I said, just observe that. Most people speak out of reactions, and they function based off of a reaction. But like I said, it rarely does one truly analyze whether it's actually benefiting or contributing to a productive life or not. Um, because like I said, that I feel like that's very critical. And these last few episodes that I've talked, they've been very critical of the self, but nonetheless, it is much needed. It's much needed within today's society. That's why I'm making the podcast today. But like I said, I want to know your guys' takes on today's episode. Like I said, your reaction being everything, right? Being all telling. I want to know your reaction. Maybe there's a certain circumstance that you see that happens within everybody's life that's going to test them, right? That's going to have a reaction that is truly going to say something about their character. I want you to go ahead and think about it and let me know in the comments if there's a specific situation that comes to mind. Give me 1 second as well. Give me 1 second. So like I said, one thing I want to say as well. Shout out to Jaden. Jaden, appreciate for making the Christmas tree in the back. Got to be a little bit more festive, man. You got the holidays coming up, man. Hopefully you guys enjoyed your Thanksgiving that was this last week. I definitely had a great time myself. Definitely a lot of eating, of course, and spending time with my family, of course, and my friends as well. But yeah, hopefully you guys had a good Thanksgiving for sure. All right. I had more points that I wanted to mention within today's episode. Let me think for a second. All right. The only way self-reflection wouldn't be important is if we always stayed the same. But that's obviously not true. We are constantly changing. You're exactly right, Jaden. You're exactly right. And like I said, I want to reemphasize. I want to reemphasize the point that I made earlier, right? Where your reactions towards certain things, whether it's something that you like doing, whether it's something that you don't like doing, must be constantly and critically evaluated always. Because like I said, you got to see if it truly makes sense within your life. Maybe you're doing something right now that doesn't make any sense within your life. It just doesn't add up. And within it not adding up, it's okay to make the slight adjustments that you need to go ahead and make. Because like I said, that the moments in which you're very self-critical and very self-analyzing, those are going to be the moments that can truly change your life. Those are going to be the moments that do change your life for sure. And I feel like that's why you see people's lives never change, because they're unwilling to get to that point within themselves. And like I said, that is their reaction. And like I said, the reaction is all telling. It's all telling, because like I said, their life is going to suggest that they were unwilling to change the reaction. Because like I said, you're assuming, and here's the thing: to be unwilling to change is to assume that you're all the way right, and you're not. And that's just the way it is. You're not all the way right within all the ways in which you will function out of, and that's okay. But like I said, be willing and accepting of that, and be willing to go ahead and adjust a certain action based off of your reaction. um, but like I said, your reaction is going to stem essentially from an action or a input or a circumstance or yeah, basically a stimulus essentially. There's going to need to be an initial reaction, or initial action that's going to have a reaction, of course. And like I said, your reactions are all telling. Your reactions must constantly be evaluated. And like I said, they must also be evaluated they must also be evaluated, specifically evaluated in the way in which you begin to analyze whether this is a positive or a negative thing, right? Whether you associate it to be more of a negative or a positive thing. But nonetheless, like I had mentioned time and time again, with everything that is negative within this life, you must somehow, some way, find a way to go ahead and transcend it into a positive thing. Because if you do not, you'll be carrying a burden on your shoulders for the rest of your life. That's just what it comes down to. You'll be carrying that weight on your shoulders instead of letting it go. And that's obviously that's gonna be more ideal for sure. It's gonna be more ideal to go ahead and uh, get the weight off your shoulders for sure. Um, And like I said, maybe you're going through something right now that is particularly negative that you don't see a way in which you can transcend it to a positive thing. Like I had mentioned on a previous podcast, maybe the most positive thing, the positive thing that you can transcend it to is it could have been worse. But nonetheless, that is something to be optimistic about, is understanding that life could be much more brutal, but it wasn't, right? There's certain ways in which you can change your reaction, right? That's gonna be everything. Those slight adjustments are literally everything. It's if a reaction is negative and you see it, ask yourself what it is that triggered you. Be aware and make the adjustments. Like I said, that is she laid it out exactly perfect right there. But like I said, the most people get stuck on the point where they just feel uncomfortable. They feel triggered. They say, you know what, I'm done. It triggers me. I don't even want to associate it with it anymore. But it's obviously necessary, of course. Two people could go through a hard time and that's the exact same. But if one person has a negative reaction towards it, it'll make the entire experience harder compared to the other person who had a more of a positive reaction. And that is exactly right. That is exactly right. And like I had mentioned, your reaction's everything. Your reaction towards certain things in life in which most people would view as a negative thing, if your reaction is somehow, some way, consistently and constantly positive, that person must be analyzed. That's something that I believe within my life. Is there's certain negative aspects of life that I've already kind of transcended within my life of how I want to react to it, eventually react to it. And that's definitely gonna give me a leg up, because there's a lot of people that never even think that far, and there's a lot of people who also decide to go ahead and only have those negative experiences and leave them as such. But yeah, like Jaden had mentioned, right? You can go through the same exact issue as somebody else, but your reaction is going to be all telling. There's going to be a person that goes through the same thing, and one person's excuse is another person's reason why. Think about that for a second. One person's excuse is another person's reason why. The stronger your why, the more you're willing to go through. The more you're willing to go through, the more you're willing to have within this life. That's what it comes down to. But like I said, I'm gonna say that one more time, right? Another person's negative reaction. I forgot what I said, but yeah, your reaction's everything. Your reaction's literally everything. It's the difference between it's the difference between you being a positive person or a negative person. Just off of that alone. Just off of that alone, man. Your reaction's everything, man. And like I said, if one thing I want to mention as well is if your reaction is delayed, that's something that you must analyze as well. Maybe right now you're holding on to something and your reaction is unintentionally delayed. Maybe you're unwilling to go ahead and change in the ways in which you need to go ahead and change. Maybe you're unwilling to make the adjustments that you need to go ahead and make. And like I said, eventually, hopefully, you get to the point where you go ahead and and you understand very, very thoroughly that you need to get past this. You need to get over this. You need to stop doing this. Whatever it is, you need to change your reaction towards it. But nonetheless, your reaction is everything, like I had mentioned. Another person's, and yeah. Essentially, if your reaction is an excuse, and another person's your reaction is action, don't you think the person whose reaction is action is going to be in a better state long term, right? Obviously, they're going to be in a better state long term. But nonetheless, one thing I want to mention as well is just if you see anybody within this life that is not exactly having the most positive reaction towards life, and maybe they're going through a hard life, you need to put that in perspective for them. Do you really want to associate this as negative as possibly can be forever? Is that really going to suit you best? Is that really going to make you the happiest person you possibly can become? Or is it going to be something? Is it going to be what holds you back, and what holds you what holds you back, and essentially is not allowing you to evolve past what you need to go ahead and evolve past. Like I said, your reactions must evolve just as you should evolve as well. Because like I said, if your reactions stop evolving, then you stop evolving altogether. And like I said, maybe you're doing something right now that makes sense, that made sense a while ago, but doesn't and no longer makes any sense now. I feel like that's where a lot of people go wrong. Is they enjoy something very, very much. been doing it since they were a child, but they're unwilling to sacrifice that, so therefore they only go so far within this life, is because they didn't understand that the reaction was everything. Even though it made them feel happy, maybe it wasn't actually contributing to the life that they wanted to go ahead and live. And like I said, your inability and unwillingness to go ahead and adjust what you know potentially could be adjusted, or know needs to be adjusted, like I said, is going to be all telling. It's surely going to be all telling. Yeah, but I find that very, very interesting as well, for sure. But yeah, I want to reiterate this point, and then I'm going to go and end it off. Your reaction is all telling, and you can begin to evaluate the reaction of others on certain topics, right? That is going to be another way that you can go ahead and observe people, critically observe people, and to see the ways in which they react to certain things. Like I said, if the reaction is all telling, the reaction towards a certain event can say a lot without saying anything, without really saying anything at all. It can still say a lot. Um, and like I said, not only can you view the reactions of people around you, but obviously everybody else can view the reactions that you have towards a certain thing as well. And like I said, maybe that is going to be maybe that is a positive thing, maybe it is a negative thing, but nonetheless, just know the people are observing you just as much as you're observing other people as well. So like I said, I'll give you one of the examples that I see time and time again. This is an example that I've carried on for the last few podcasts. I'll apply it when it goes ahead and applies, right? So let's just say like I said, your reaction's everything. So maybe your reaction, let's just say you were a kid growing up. Maybe your reaction was very, very positive towards video games. Very, very positive. You had a great time always playing it. Growing up in high school, you had a good time playing with your friends. Um, and maybe you decide to go ahead and take that within your adult life, and you're 25, 26, maybe even 30, still playing video games because you had a good time when you were a child, and it just made sense back then. But your inability to go ahead and react accordingly, and react in real time, and be able to critically and constantly evaluate whether certain things make sense within your life or not. Like I said, there's certain people that stay at a certain spot because they're unwilling to make that adjustment. S- the- they're unwilling to even see the necessity in which one would need to go ahead and adjust their behavior, right? And like I said, that is literally the difference. That is literally the difference between two different people in their journeys, in which they go ahead and act as certain things. But like I said, maybe right now you're carrying on something. Maybe it's video games yourself. Maybe it's another activity, or certain thing that used to make you very, very happy, but no longer makes any sense for your life right now. You must be very, very critical with this. You must analyze it to see if it makes sense within your life. And like I said, hopefully you watching this right now do not want to be a contradicting person, right? If you're a person that doesn't want to be a contradicting person, then you must go ahead and adjust your behavior accordingly. Because if not, you're going to be a person that is going to be contradicting, of course. All right. Is there anything else I want to mention for today's episode? Yeah, I'll reiterate this as well. Like I said, with your reaction being everything, it's the way that you respond, right? It's the way that you respond to adversity. It's the way that you respond to challenge. And like I said, just those two things alone, you can begin to see a lot about a lot about a person's character just by observing the ways in which they kind of go through adversity. Maybe they're a person who's really, really emotionally distraught when it comes to a negative, what could be perceived as a negative experience, right? Maybe they get challenged by somebody, and maybe one person use it as an inspiration and motivation. Maybe the other person uses it as, insults. Maybe it's an attack, right? But nonetheless, your reaction towards certain things in life is literally everything. So, like I said, for example, right? Um, for the people for the, there's two. Okay, I'm gonna use this analogy that somebody has used, I'm sure, time and time again, right? There's two people that can live a hard life, right? There's people who don't do anything with their life, and they live a hard life because you know they didn't really build anything for themselves. And you have the people that have built themselves up but still live a really hard life. But nonetheless, you're living a hard life regardless, right? A person's reaction towards these certain things, towards like I said, certain given inputs or circumstances is gonna literally be all telling. Like I mentioned time and time again, is literally gonna be all telling because you're gonna see a person who said, "Oh, give me a second, hold up. Appreciate it's not my Josh. Self-esteem plays a factor in some people. Okay, KJ is no reaction is the best reaction when it comes to getting so many rejections and just the best reaction is no reaction. Maybe that is right. Maybe that is right, man. But from business deal. Oh no, that's a question. Is no reaction the best reaction when it comes to getting so many rejections, not just from women but from business deals as well? So for example, let's just say for example, let's use this as an example. Let's just say you get rejected by women, right? That is the outcome of the situation, right? That is the action, that is the input, that is the circumstance that I've discussed time and time again. Now, your reaction is everything. The ways in which you react towards that outcome. If that outcome is not ideal, then there's adjustments that need to be made. There's areas of opportunity that need to be seeked out, right? But like I said, your reaction's everything. If that, like I said, if that's an ideal, a less than ideal scenario for your life, there's something that needs to be changed, and you are the person that can change that, right? You must be very, very critical and constantly evaluating your reaction to see if it's something that's going to contribute to a positive life or not. If it's going to contribute to a better life or not. But your reaction is everything. Is no reaction the best reaction when it comes to getting somebody rejected? I'm gonna say no. I said the best reaction in those certain situations is to go ahead and make a change for yourself. To go ahead and use that stimulus to go ahead and give you a more favorable result. That's the way that I would handle it. Like I said, your reaction is all telling. If there's two people in that certain situation that KJ had described, right? There's a person who keeps getting rejected, whether this is with women or whether this is with business deals, and says, you know what, life sucks, man. Nothing really works out for me. I'm unlucky, and that's just gonna be the way it is. That is that person's reaction, right? Or you have another person that says, you know what, I've got rejected by women. I'm getting rejected in business too, and it's not really it's going against the way that I would like to live. But you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna use it as motivation. I'm gonna use it as inspiration. I'm gonna go ahead and make the adjustments. I'm gonna go ahead and make myself better. I'm gonna go ahead and have the last laugh at the end of the day, right? That person's reaction is everything. Like I mentioned, it's literally everything. You can tell, like I said, you can tell a lot about a person just by just the way they react towards a certain thing, right? But I'm giving you certain examples, but I want to really, really emphasize the difference in which the life path that you could possibly take, right? There's gonna be two roads you can go down, right? And hopefully I've laid it out clear enough for you to understand this very, very thoroughly. But there's a person who reacts positively towards adversity, towards challenge, towards life circumstances, towards given inputs, and there's people that truly, for whatever reason, always react negatively, right? Strive to be the person that is reacting more positively, regardless of what you go through within this life. Strive to be the person who reacts more positively than negatively. Because, like I said, evaluate the life of people who react more negatively. Do you want to live like them? The answer is usually going to be no, right? So, therefore, you must alter your path. That's pretty much all I have to say for that, right? You have to pretty much alter your path. You must change your reactions. You must adapt better. That's pretty much what I have to say for that. But if not, like I said, you're going to see your life go down a path in which is going to be less than ideal. And like I said, that's obviously not ideal. So therefore, you shouldn't act like it is. But yeah, I'll go ahead and say it again. Your reactions all telling. There's going to be plenty of situations and examples that I could use, but your response towards anything negative or anything positive is all telling. Like I said, that example of that what could be perceived as a negative thing, like I said, such as a rejection, right? Is one person's wire or is another person's cope? Is another person's reason for which they can't do anything or they can't be better, right? That person's reaction. This let's just say for example, this one woman rejected this one man, and now Now he uses that as his biggest claim for defeat, right? Instead somebody could have that same exact situation within their life and say, you know what, I'm gonna make that woman regret her decision. I'm gonna go ahead and better myself, right? Same situation, different reaction, different life outcome. See what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Hopefully you guys understand where I'm coming from for today's episode. But yeah, I'll say this for the last time. Your reactions must be critically and constantly evaluated and will constantly be evaluated through the tests of life. Life will constantly test you to see if the certain reactions that you've had in the past still suit you or no longer suit you. But nonetheless, it's going to be up to you to evaluate whether these things do or whether these things don't. And it's going to be up to you to go ahead and make the change if a change is going to be necessary. But yeah, I would say it's as simple as that. Like I said, it's not particularly easy. It's not something that you're always going to be 100% mindful of when going through a negative thing, but nonetheless, it is going to be the right thing, the right frame of mind, in my opinion. Maybe, like I said, maybe there's a better frame of mind, but up to this point, I have yet to figure one out. But essentially, your reaction's everything. It's the way they respond to adversity and challenge. Like she had just had mentioned, you must analyze, adjust, and keep seeking improvement. Rejections are opportunities for self improvement. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. Is there anything else I want to say for today's episode? Basically there's no use to give your energy to negativity. There's no use. You must transcend that potential use of energy to something more positive as opposed to negative. It's not ideal. It's not ideal. Yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say for today's episode. Reactions are all telling. Be very, very critical of oneself. That is where the most improvement is made. Like I said, use any and every negative situation or what could be perceived negative situation as an opportunity for self improvement, because there typically is going to be something that you can do. So your future situation can be changed based off of today's less than ideal outcome. Okay, I'll go ahead and end it. Appreciate you for stopping by. The next podcast is going to be on Thursday. Make sure to tap in with that for sure. This is going to be, I think I have 9 episodes left before the end of the year. So if there's a specific person that you want to have on, you want me to have on, let me know in the comments. I would love for this to be the last episode of the entire year where I'm the person that's by myself doing the episode. So definitely look forward to more people coming on the podcast. Like I said, if there's any person you want me to have on, let me know. But other than that, make sure to go ahead and follow me on TikTok, Twitch, and Rumble as well. Just at Life of a Champ podcast and all those. Make sure to go ahead and leave a like on the video if you did enjoy today's episode. Um, what else? Is there anything else I want to say? Yeah, and I pretty much said everything. This was episode 168 of the Life of a Champ podcast, talking about your reaction being everything. And I'll go ahead and leave you off with a podcast motto. Fellas out here, man, we don't just work around here, man. We outwork. So make sure y'all work with these motherfuckers because you know that I am. Come on now. Y'all know what time it is, man. Make sure y'all work these motherfuckers. Next podcast is going to be on Thursday. Tapping with that for sure. Like I said, if there's a podcast topic that you want me to talk about, definitely let me know in the comments for sure. And other than that, you guys have a good rest of your night. Like I said, stay tuned on for Thursday.